Hello, everybody. I hope all of you are feeling good and ready to have an interesting mathematics session. Guys, in this session, we are going to solve quadratic equations by factoring, but this time our factoring method will be grouping form. We are going to use grouping method to factor the quadratic equations and then solve them. I'm going to explain this part by giving some examples. Example, solve. Suppose as the first example, we have 2x squared minus 3x plus 1 equals 0. This is a quadratic equation in which the leader coefficient is 2. And we are going to solve this one by factoring. Whenever you are going to solve a quadratic equation by factoring, first of all, you should find P. What is P? P is the product of the leader coefficient and constant. I mean these two. P is the product of the leader coefficient and the constant. Therefore, P is 2 times 1, which is 2. And then find S. What is S? S is the coefficient of the linear term. I mean negative 3. After finding product and sum, try to find two numbers. Their product is 2 and their sum is negative 3. Since product is positive, both of the numbers have the same signs and sum is negative, both of them are negative. Then the numbers can be negative 1 and negative 2. By having these two numbers, we are able to rewrite this quadratic equation in the form of 4 terms. Look at here. The quadratic term, this one, should be written 2x squared. Instead of this linear term, using these two numbers, we can put negative 1x minus 2x. Instead of this negative 3x, I put, using these two, negative 1x minus 2x. Then write the constant and put that equal to 0. As you see, this quadratic is written in form of 4 terms. Now, try to group them 2 by 2. The first two terms inside the first group, 2x squared minus 1x. Be sure to put plus sign between the two groups, and inside the second group, the second two terms, I mean minus 2x plus 1, which will be equal to 0. We have grouped. Now, look at the first group. Find the GCF of the first group. GCF of the first group is x. Factor out of GCF. If you factor out of GCF from the first group from here, you can have 2x minus 1. Look at the second group. You will say GCF in here is 1. Yes, GCF is 1. You can factor out of 1. But if you factor out of 1, this parentheses will be repeated, is not the same with this parentheses we have got. Then it is better to factor out of negative 1. If you factor out of negative 1, the two parentheses will be the same. I factor out of negative 1 from the second group, and I got this one. And as you see, now we have two parentheses. They are the same. We can factor out of these two parentheses, which are the same. 2x minus 1. I'm going to factor out of this parentheses. If you factor out of these parentheses from the first part, I mean from here, you can have just x. And from the second part, I mean here, you can have negative 1, which will be equal to 0. Now, you have reached to a place there. product of two factors equals 0. Now you can use zero product property and say 2x minus 1 is equal to 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. Solving the first one will result in x equals to 1. Therefore, x will be 1 over 2. And solving the second one will result in x equals 1. And these are the solutions. I solved this equation by grouping method. Let me write one more example. Number 2. Suppose this equation is given 3x squared minus 7x plus 2 equals 0. I'm going to solve this equation using grouping method. As the previous one, first I should find p, product of the leader coefficient and this constant. As you see, product of the leader coefficient and the constant is 3 times 2, which is 6. This is the product. And sum is the coefficient of the linear term, the middle term, this one, which is negative 7. After finding sum and product, look for two numbers. Their product is 6, their sum is negative 7. Since product is positive, both of the numbers can be positive or both of them are negative. Since sum is negative, both of them are negative, and the numbers can be negative 1 and negative 6. After finding these two numbers, try to find the quadratic equation in 4 terms. Write the quadratic term, 3x squared. This negative 7x using these two numbers can be written in form of negative 1x minus 6x. And then write the constant, put the whole equal to 0. Then group 2 by 2. The first two terms can be put in first group, and the second two terms can be put into the second group. Be sure again to put plus sign between the two groups. Negative 6x plus 2 equals 0. Try to factor out of GCF in first group. In first group, the GCF is x. If you factor out of x, you will have 3x minus 1. In the second group, GCF is 2, but if you factor out of 2, look at here, if you factor out of 2, you can have 2 parentheses minus 3x plus 1. But in this case, the parentheses are not the same. Then, to have the parentheses the same, it is better to factor out of negative 2. If you factor out of negative 2, guys, you will have negative 2 times 3x minus 1 equals 0. And now the parentheses are the same. Then factor out of the same parentheses, 3x minus 1 times, from this part, from here, we can have x, and from this part, we can have negative 2. Whole equals to 0. Now we have product of two factors equals to 0. Then we can use zero product property. Using zero product property will result in 3x minus 1 equals 0, or x minus 2 equals 0. Solving the first linear equation will result in 3x equals 1, and finally x will be 1 over 3. And solving the second one will result in x equals 2. And we did this quadratic equation using the grouping method. Let me do next example. Example number 3. Suppose the third example is negative 5x squared minus 6x equals negative 27. Okay, guys, as you see, this equation is not in standard form. At the first step, I'm going to turn that to the standard form. Negative 5x squared minus 6x plus 27 equals to 0. After turning the equation to the standard form, again, I'm going to find product. Product is coefficient of the quadratic term times the constant 27, which is equal to negative 135. And the sum is negative 6. Now you are going to find two numbers. Their product is negative 135 and their sum is negative 6. And since product is negative, one of them is negative, the other is positive. To find these two numbers, you can write this sum as negative 7 plus 1. This doesn't work. Negative 8 plus 2, again doesn't work. Negative 9 plus 3 doesn't work. Negative 10 plus 4, which won't work. Negative 11 plus 5 doesn't work. Negative 12 plus 6, not yet. Negative 13 plus 7, not yet. Negative 14 plus 8, no. But negative 15 plus 9, this works. Then the numbers we were looking for them are negative 15 and 9. Using these two numbers we found here, we can rewrite this quadratic as negative 5x squared minus 15x plus 9x plus 27 equals 0. Now try to group these, the first two terms, into first group and the others into the second group. And as you see, the GCF of the first group is negative 5x or 5x. I'm going to factor out negative 5x. We can have x plus 3. And GCF of the second group is 9. Factor out of 9, we can have x plus 3 equals 0. And as you see, parentheses are the same. X plus 3, I'm going to factor out of x plus 3. By factoring out of x plus 3, at this part we can have negative 5x, and here we can have plus 9, which is equal to 0. Therefore, now we can use zero product property. X plus 3 will be equal to 0, or negative 5x plus 9 will be equal to 0. This one will result in x equals negative 3, and the second one will result in negative 5x equals negative 9. Therefore, x will be equal to negative 9 over negative 5, which can be written as 9 over 5. Okay, I did this quadratic equations by grouping method. Now, as the last example, I'm going to write another one. Number 4. X plus 1 times x plus 3 equals 15. Okay, guys, as you see, this equation is not in quadratic form, and also I can say in standard form. First of all, I have to get rid of this parentheses. by multiplying these parentheses to each other, I can have x squared plus 3x plus x plus 3 equals 15. And now, if you move all the terms to the left side and simplify them, the simplified form will be x squared plus this 3x by this 1x makes 4x. And if you move this 15 to the left side by this 3 and negative 15 makes negative 12, which is equal to 0. Now, find the product. Product is 1 times negative 12, which is negative 12. And sum is coefficient of the linear term, I mean here, which is 4. Now look for two numbers. Their product is negative 12 and their sum is 4. If you can guess, that will be so good. If you can't guess, say this 4 should be written as a positive number, the positive number after 4, which is 5, plus a negative number. This doesn't work. But the next option is 6 plus negative 2. This option works. Therefore, the two numbers we are looking for them are 6 and negative 2. Therefore, we can rewrite this standard quadratic equation in 4 terms. X squared plus, instead of this 4x, I can put 6x minus 2x. Instead of this 4x, I put 6x minus 2x using these two numbers. Minus 12 equals 0. And after this part, I have to group them 2 by 2. The first two terms will come into the first group. Be sure to put plus sign between the two groups, and the last terms will come into the second group. As you see, in the first group, x works as GCF. If you factor out of x, you will have x plus 6. And in the second group, 2 or negative 2 are the GCFs. But which one is better to be used? I'll say negative 2. Negative 2 times x plus 6 equals to 0. And now you can see the two parentheses are the same. The two parentheses we have got are the same. You can factor out of the same parentheses. I mean, you can factor out of x plus 6. If you factor out of x plus 6 from this part, what remains? X. And from here, if you take out x plus 6, what remains? Negative 2 equals to 0. And now you have product of two factors is equal to 0. Now you can use zero product property and say the first factor is equal to 0 or the second factor is equal to 0. Solving the first one will result in x equals negative 6 and the second one will result in x equals 2. And we got the solutions. I hope this session was useful for you.